Good afternoon, and welcome to class 2 of our month-long March Madness Grocery Challenge. Now, today we are going to talk about how you can find the date you will be debt-free and how to move that date up by months, even years. So get ready for that because that's really the whole point. What are you going to do with the money that you've been saving on your groceries by doing this challenge? And what I did is I used that money to get out of debt and get out of debt quickly. And then once I was out of debt, I actually invested into my future. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Let me tell you a little bit about how it got started. And I am not a financial advisor. I'm not your priest, shrink, rabbi. I have no fancy titles. I was a stay-at-home mom, single income family, homeschooling mom, and we were making less than 6 figures a year. And we still managed to pay off all of our debt. So, one of the big misconceptions is I just need more money to pay off my debt. No, no, you don't. Because if you haven't developed the habits to take care of the money that you have, more money will just amplify those bad habits. And the people that have more money, typically, not all of them, but typically the more you make, the more in debt you go. So I want you to think about the very first job you had. Maybe it was pulling weeds for your grandma. Maybe it was doing housekeeping. Maybe it was babysitting. My first job was babysitting. I got paid $2 an hour and I wasn't in debt. $2 an hour. Fast forward, and you know what? I didn't save any of it. I bought whatever I wanted because, wow, I'm making money now. It was awesome. And I learned how to spend and I spent it all. So eventually, still in high school, I got a job at a grocery store as a cashier, making more than $2 an hour. And I had a car, so I had car expenses. And I did not put any of that towards my future. I didn't save it. I didn't know. And what happened after that? I was in college, um, had car payments, I had student loans, I had debt, but I was making more money. Fast forward to after college, in my 20s, making more money and accumulating so much debt that I had multiple debts go to collections. Can any of you relate to that? Have you ever had anything go to collections? And if you're here right now, it's probably because you want to learn how to manage your money a little bit better. You want to get rid of that pain of having more month than you have money. Okay, so I know how that feels. And man, being in debt is not a good thing. And if you bury your head in the sand about debt like I did, you might be in collections. You might get those phone calls. And back then, they could call you at work, they could call you anywhere. And it was very uncomfortable. So I worked really hard to pay off that debt and get out of collections. And guess what? I went right back into debt. Very, very common. This is why lottery winners, within 5 to 7 years, they've spent it all and they're back in debt. So do not tell yourself I just need more money because you don't. You need to learn how to manage what you have. If you're faithful with a little, you'll be given much more. If you're faithful with a little, you'll be given much more. And that comes from my number one resource on finances, on wealth building, on getting out of debt. And that resource is a book that is probably one of the best-selling books of all time, historical book called the Bible. Yep, talks about money, talks about wealth, talks how to get out of debt, and it also talks how to live your life. We're not going to make money our God. We're going to make money our slave. You see the difference? If you are a slave to your money, you're in debt. Who wants to be a slave? Let's reverse that. Let's become the master and tell our money what to do rather than our money making a slave out of us. So, single income family making less than six figures a year. I have been trying to pay down our debt, our medical bills, our my son had to go to Miami Children's Hospital for 2 years. While I was also going through physical health issues, I had 5 surgeries within the course of 6 years, major abdominal surgeries, cutting tumors out of me, massive medical debt, car debt, student loan debt, and of course, a mortgage, while not being able to work, while my husband was the only breadwinner. So after 17 years of trying to pay down debt, we always paid a little bit more towards the mortgage. We always paid a little bit more towards our debt, but still after 17 years, we had paid off about $87,000 worth of debt. And I felt like I couldn't get ahead. Do you feel like you can't get ahead? And the mortgage, I mean, it's crazy. We had been paying for years, but the first year of the mortgage, 90% of our payments were just going towards interest, and hardly anything was going towards the principal. It was disheartening that I'm paying and paying and not able to get out of debt. Credit cards, I mean, those interest payments are crazy. So, yeah, if you're just paying the minimum on your credit cards, it's got to stop. It's got to stop now, or you're going to be a slave continually. So, once I realized a few truths about managing money, a few things about debt, things started to change. And really, it starts with mindset because I knew about the debt snowballs or the debt avalanches, and you pay this and you pay that debt off. And, I knew about it, I had the knowledge, but I was stuck in trying to apply it. And once I got down to it, and my family was on board, my husband was on board, because he was killing himself with overtime, and we're still making less than six figures a year. We got serious and we paid off $92,000 worth of debt in 12 months. We had a plan, we had a strategy, and I'll tell you something that was really key. I was reading the Bible and I was reading the Creator's plan for debt. In Corinthians, it says the only debt to remain outstanding is the debt to love one another. Okay, that's the only debt you're supposed to have. Now, we know, and here I'm talking about personal debt, business debt, and leveraging debt. That is a totally different thing. Talking about personal debt, talking about your house. You want to own your house. You don't want the bank to own it. If you have a business debt, if you have a rental property and a mortgage on it, and your tenants are paying the mortgage, if something happens and you lose that house, you're not going to be out on the street. So we're not talking about business debt or leverage. We're talking about your personal debt. So $92,000 of debt paid off in 12 months while making less than six figures. So I was reading in the Bible, God saw that people did use debt for certain reasons. Sometimes people even became an indentured servant or a slave to somebody else. But debts, all debts, were forgiven in 7 years. 7 years. So God's speaking as I'm reading. And sure, sometimes we need to borrow. Sometimes there's a debt situation, but God doesn't want you to be in debt. In His word, in His plan, He's like, okay, no more than 7 years. 7 years, the year of freedom. And I looked at how many years we were paying off our debt, and I thought, God doesn't want this. But this is the result of my own personal choices. So, number one, and if you haven't already gotten a piece of paper, a pen, pencil, mascara, lipstick, something to take notes on, get it now. Get some notes, hit pause, because this is where your freedom starts. Number one, God wants you to be free. He created you to be a free person. He created you for freedom. He did not create you to be a slave. It's not what He wants for you. Did not create you to be a slave. So right now, claim your freedom. Right now, declare that you are no longer going to be a slave to money, and you will get your freedom. So that's number one. And that's the biggest thing. Once you accept that freedom is the natural state for you, you will do whatever it takes to get out of debt. Okay? So here we go. I had to look at my personal responsibility. That's number two, personal responsibility. Number one, God created and designed you to be free. That's your natural state. Number two, you got to take personal responsibility. I saw somewhere somebody was saying, oh, well, if it wasn't for taxes, I'd be out of debt. Taxes have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and people have been out of debt. All right, so don't blame the government. Don't blame your circumstances. Don't blame your spouse. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame your children. You. You. You don't take responsibility for your part in debt. You're the only thing that can change you. You can't change others. You got to take personal responsibility. Hey, now, when I got married, I was the one that brought debt into the marriage. My husband had no debt, none. Then we got another car, we got the house, and we developed debt, but I brought debt into the marriage. And it wasn't his personal responsibility for that debt, it was mine. But to become one, and he took it on as his responsibility as well, even though he didn't create that debt. Then we created more together. But let's talk about addicted to stuff. I just spent about the last 4 years of my life, even though I've been out of debt, getting rid of stuff. And my house still feels full. Truckloads and truckloads of stuff. What stuff are you addicted to? Are you a shoe girl? Are you addicted to those pretty shoes that you don't even wear because they hurt your feet? Are you addicted to clothes? Are you addicted to Ben& Jerry's ice cream at night? Addicted to the food, addicted to going out, addicted to the convenience? What are you addicted to? Because if you're addicted to those things, again, you're a slave to those things. So, one, God created you to be free. Two, take personal responsibility. Take a look at your addictions. We all have them. Three, and this is something I did not realize as deeply then, but marketing. The marketers that create commercials. And if you're scrolling on your phone all the time, if you're death scrolling in bed, um, very very smart people in rooms have figured out how to get you addicted to marketing. And you know what? It's marketing just because they say it's the latest, greatest thing, or this thing's going to help you lose weight, or this thing's going to help you feel better. Chances are it's really not. It's marketing. So get rid of your marketing. Here's number three, get rid of the shopping apps on your phone. You don't need to shop from your phone. You can walk over to the computer. If you need to order something online, you don't need to have it in your pocket all the time. If you go out to your mailbox, here's what I do. Go out to my mailbox. I get the mail. 9 times out of 10, it's marketing. I don't even bring it in the house. The catalogs, the flyers, the circulars, and they get dumped outside in the recycle room, in the recycle bin before I even walk into the house. Get rid of the marketing. That's making you poor. And they're not, honestly, they're not the latest, greatest things. They're really not. It's just stuff. It's just stuff you don't need. So get rid of that marketing. So let's talk about how you're going to feel when you're out of debt. So, number four, nothing can replace that feeling of financial freedom, knowing you're never going to lose your house, knowing that you have enough to live on, knowing that you have an abundance and you have more than you need. Now, let's go back to your first job and your second job, and you're making more money now, but you're further in debt than your first job, but you're making more money, or your second job, but you're making more money. It's about being a good steward. So let's talk about being a good steward. It's why we're doing the grocery challenge. Most people, when they start this challenge, they easily find $600 that they're overspending in their groceries. Now, when I'm talking about groceries, I'm talking about grocery store shopping. I'm talking about not just the food, the cleaning supplies, the paper towels, the the paper towels, the paper napkins, the paper plates, the butt wipes, the wipes for dusting, the disposable wipes for dusting. Why don't you just take a dollar bill and dust with that, wipe your butt with that and throw it in the garbage, because that's essentially what you're doing. Now, come on, I'm not saying never ever buy paper towels in your life. There's a time where, hey, you might have a really messy spill and you're just going to throw it away. The average household spends nearly $300 a year on paper towels, paper napkins, butt wipes. 300 a year. How about you take some of that $300 and you buy reusable cloth napkins? They're not that hard to just throw in any load of clothes that you're doing. Doesn't take any more water, doesn't take any more soap. And that's what I'm talking about, being a good steward. Look at the little things in your budget add up. How much are you spending on convenience foods? How many drive-throughs? Are you going to Starbucks to drop off your kids at soccer practice and on the way back? I mean, that adds up. Come on, you know what stuff that is. That's your financial plan. If you're doing that, that's your financial plan. Your financial plan has been to be a debt slave, to be broke, and to just give your money to companies that are happy to take it from you. Let's reverse that because it's time to make you wealthy and you rich and not giving it away to people that aren't even in your family. Think about leaving a legacy. Think about what you're teaching your children. Going through this, my son taught, was taught to save money. And we didn't do it at first. We were not doing this, but he saw what we were doing. And now he's 21 years old. He has nearly $20,000 in an investment account that's paying him money every month. Some of that's in a Roth IRA, some of it's in a regular investment account. And that's because he is paying himself instead of paying debtors. All right, first, he gives to the poor, the widow, the orphan, he gives to charity. Number two, he pays himself. And then next, he spends it on what he wants to spend on. He has fun. So, $600. How much have you found in the grocery challenge? How much extra money have you found? We're nearly halfway through the month. Now, most people that I coach, most people that have gone through my intensive 8-week course, and you're getting some of the golden nuggets of that right here, they've typically found by going through that course anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 of extra spending. I mean, that's crazy. They start out typically $500 to $600, very easy to find, but food is the biggest item, so we're going to focus on food. Our food budget, just going to the grocery store was easily $1,200, and eating out was easily $200 a month for a family. And you go to the restaurants. I know you do. I mean, we can't walk out of there for less than $100. And that's cheap places that aren't even that good. If we want to go to a place as a treat that's really good, we're looking at $200. So easily $2,000. But for the purposes of this exercise, let's say you found $600 in your grocery account and you're willing to eat out a little bit less. Not every day, not every other day, let's say once a week. You're going to have an extra $1,000 to pay towards debt, an extra 1,000. And let's talk again about the food budget. I have people that come to me and my husband, they say, I want to get out of debt, but it's lip service because these people that say they want to get out of debt, like, you see what my husband did for 25 years? He packed his lunch. You go out to lunch every single day. Pack your lunch. Do they do it? No. Their words are not matching up with your actions. So do you want to get out of debt? Make your actions back up your words. Same particular person. They don't like where they live. They want to move to a new house. They want to upgrade to a better neighborhood with a bigger mortgage. What does that tell you? Do you want to get out of debt or do you not want to get out of debt? Think about it and think about your own personal choices. We've all been there. I've been there. We want the fancier car. We want the fancy school. We want the fancy restaurant, the fancy clothes. We want these things. And those things steal from you. So if you say you want to get out of debt, look at your own life. Find out what actions are not lining up with your words. All right, so that's all about being a good steward. So, number one, and then we're going to get into the numbers, then we're going to get into the math. God wants you to be free. He designed you to be a free person. Number two, look at your own personal addictions. Look at what you can cut out. Stop. Try a 1 week of zero spending on anything. Try a 1 month, no spending on extras. Figure out what your personal addictions are and crush them. Do not be a slave to your addictions. Number three, marketing. Get the marketing off your phone. Don't bring it in the house. Throw your marketing flyers and coupons and all those things in the garbage. And hey, if you sit and you clip coupons and more power to you. That's a full-time job. The people that do that, I mean, they're spending 40 hours a week doing that. But hey, you want to do that, that's an amazing skill. Number four, abundance. There is abundance. God created abundance. That's who He is. We do have an abundance. You don't have to be a hoarder. You don't have to have a poverty mindset. You don't have to buy so much stuff in your house that you can't even move and you just feel crushed. So we do have abundance. And be a good steward. Be a good steward of what you have. So if you're here, if you have your pencil, pen, lipstick, mascara, if you've been following the grocery challenge, you know how much you've been saving. And $600 to $1,000 is what the people that I have coached in my 8-week program. I don't know when I'll be doing that again, but they've easily found $1,000 up to $2,000 a month. But we're going to go with $1,000 because that's an even number. So if you found that much this month, if you haven't found that much yet, don't worry, I'll give you tips on how to find it. Now we're going to write down our debts. How many debts do you have? Every single one. And I will tell you something. Oh, I had a beautiful, beautiful girl, woman, mom, amazing, amazing person. And she said, well, I don't have any debt. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So you're no car debt? Oh yeah, well, we have car debt. That doesn't count as debt. I'm like, no, that's, you still owe somebody money. That's debt. She's like, oh, okay. And so no other debts? Nope, no other debts. So are you renting? Did you pay off your mortgage? Oh no, we have a mortgage. That's not debt. I'm like, no, that's literally death that people have till they die. That's why they call it a mortgage. M-O-R-T, mort, from death, mortuary, mortgage. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize that was debt. So, sometimes we can be blinded to the debt that we have. If you owe anybody anything, that is debt. That's debt. So, write down all of your debts. Your mortgage, any automobiles or cars. How about boats, jet skis, motorcycles, ATVs? How about furniture? Some people go to these like rent-a-centers and they furnish their house. Their couch and their tables are being financed. That's debt. That's debt. Student loans. That is debt. Okay. So mortgage, auto, student loans, and of course, credit cards. How many credit cards do you have? Now, by debt with the credit cards, do you carry a balance? If you pay off your credit cards every single month in full, you don't need to count that as debt because you pay it off. Um, but if you carry a balance, you're going to count that entire amount as debt. So anything else? Home equity line of credit. Maybe you have a home equity line of credit on top of your mortgage or a second mortgage. That's debt. Maybe you owe Uncle Frank $500 and you just haven't paid it back because it's family. You'll get to it. He doesn't mind. No, that's debt. Write it down. Okay. All of your debts, write them down. Now, you're going to like this if you're not a math person. We're not going to worry about the percentage rates or the APR. Uncle Frank is probably not even charging you interest. The credit cards, I mean, it's like a credit card mafia. They're charging 29, 33% interest. It's crazy. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're not even going to worry about the math on the percentage rates, and we don't even need to. And I'll let you know how this works. So write down all of your debts. And after you write down all of your debts, you're going to write the amount owed next to it. All right, so you have your debts. How many do you have? What's the amount next to each debt? Now, I'm going to have you put them in order from least to greatest. If you need to pause this when you're watching the replay, go ahead and pause. This is a really important part. Take time to do it. Take time to do it right. Take time to put everything down. I don't have any debts anymore, but I'm still doing this exercise with you. I'm still writing stuff down. So go ahead and pause. Least to greatest. Make sure you get everything. And think about how good it's going to feel when they're paid off. So go ahead and pause. Okay. Wrote down your debts, least to greatest, not worrying about interest rates for the purposes of this exercise. We're going to do least to greatest. So I'm going to write down Uncle Frank, $500 as the first debt. And next debt, just as an example, I'm going to put a credit card with a $2,000 balance that gets carried. I'm going to put another credit card with a $5,000 balance. And if you have an auto payment, put it down. I'm not going to put it down for the purposes of this exercise, but I am going to put down a mortgage at $105,000. Okay. So I ordered my debts. Not pretty, but they're written down. Okay. Now, next thing I want you to do is put how much are you paying? Don't put your minimum payment unless you're doing the minimum payment. Put how much are you paying towards these debts every month? So Uncle Frank, I'm going to put 0. Not paying him a darn thing. Every time Thanksgiving rolls around, he's like, hey, how you doing? You're trying to ignore him. He's your family. Not paying him anything every month. Credit cards, let's say the first credit card, let's say you're paying 200 a month towards credit card number 2. Let's say you're putting 200 a month towards credit card number 3. And a mortgage, typically, they have a minimum payment. So I'm just going to put 800 a month down there for that. All right. So this is what I did. Just as a sample, you've got who you owe, and you've got how much you owe them. And then this middle column here is how much you're actually paying every month. Now, this month, grocery challenge. You've already found at least $500 extra this month. At least 500. We're going to put that right there. This month, we're going to get rid of one debt, and that's Uncle Frank. Get rid of that debt. He's going to be so happy. It's not going to be uncomfortable to see him anymore. So 1 month down, 500. Now, as I said, we're building up how much we have. At the end of this month, you're going to realize you have at least $1,000 that you can put towards debt. So we're just going to use the nice round numbers. So paid Uncle Frank 500. Next month, month number 2, we're gonna up that to 1,000 because you found $1,000. I like to call it fat, fun and travel, luxuries, things that are not necessary for survival. So the first month you found $500 extra, and by going through this whole challenge at the end of the month and at the end of this video, you'll see how you can get a little more. So what you're going to do now is you're going to roll it over, and that credit card that you were only paying $200 a month on, now you're going to add that $1,000. Now you're going to be paying $1,200. $1,200. So how many months is it going to take to pay off that $2,000? If now you're paying an extra $1,000 a month, how long? That's easy math. It's going to take you 2 months. It's going to take you 2 months to pay that off. So now you just freed up that $1,000 plus $200. You're not paying $200 to that credit card anymore. You're going to roll it over to the next one. So you're going to roll over that whole amount to the next column. So now this credit card, instead of paying just $200 a month on that credit card, you're going to add the $1,200 to it. That's $1,400. All right, just for some quick math. 4 times 12 is 48. So that's $4,800. You know, and I'm just going to round that up to 4 months to pay that. Because, you know, something happens. Now, here's a question before we get down to the mortgage. A lot of people say, well, shouldn't I pay off the credit card or whatever debt I owe that has the highest APR or the highest interest rate? And I'm going to tell you no, 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 no. Unless you're an AI robot and you just focus on numbers and you have no emotions, then do it that way. But something happens to your mindset when you get some forward momentum. I'm not worried about the percentage rate. I'm keeping it simple. Keep it simple. Kiss, keep it simple, sweetie. And when you get momentum like this, something happens to your emotions and your mind. You're like, wow, I just paid off one debt. I just paid off two debts in 3 months. Oh my gosh. And it actually gives you like a drug rush. You get endorphins, you get serotonin. You're like, dang, this feels so good. Maybe I can sell something. Maybe I can pay it off even faster. I feel so good. I want more of that. Maybe I can sell something. Maybe I don't need this bicycle that our family said we were going to ride bikes, but it's collecting dust. Maybe I'll put them on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. You get momentum and you pay things off faster. So get rid of those debts. All right. So in 3 months, or well, I mean, we just knocked off the top three debts. 1 month, then 2 months later, then 4 months. So that's a total of 7 months. In 7 months, the top three debts would be paid off. Now, what's going to happen now? Adding the 1,400 here to the 800, because remember this credit card, we were paying it down 1,200 plus 200. Okay, we're adding 1,200 plus 200 is 1,400. We're adding the 1,400 to 800. Okay, get a calculator out. If you just are not a math person, you don't have to do it in your head. So 1,400 plus 800 equals 2,200. 2,200. Let's see how long now it's going to take to pay off that mortgage. Now, when we had our mortgage, it was $125,000 mortgage. 17 years later, it went down to 105. 17 years later. And I'm still, it's unbelievable. But let's see. We've got 105,000 divided by 22, and that equals 47.7 months. So let's round it to 48 months. 48 months. That's 4 years to pay off your mortgage. So in this example, 4 years. In this example, gonna take 4 years and 7 months to pay off all of this debt. Typically, when I coach people, debts are paid off within 5 to 7 years, and that's biblical. That's the biblical number that I want to hit. And I believe as you are faithful with a little, you'll be given much more. As you go through these numbers, as you go through this plan, and right now, if you're saying, oh my gosh, that's impossible, I can't do that, it's not going to happen. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Speak life. With God, all things are possible. Wow, that might look impossible, but with God, all things are possible. I can do it. Others have done it before me. And this is what changed. Developing those habits of being a good steward, tracking your grocery budget, tracking your food budget, everything you spend at the grocery store, and every time you eat out, That is taking away from your freedom. It's taking away from your freedom if it is excessive, if it's the fat. Pack your lunches. We all know that. We all know that. Um, I spent 17 or 18 years only paying down $87,000 worth of debt. And my mortgage went from 125 to 105,000 in freaking 17 years. Crazy, crazy. All right, so I'm going to give you a few more tips on what I did. I'm not recommending anybody else do this. You figure out how badly you want to be out of debt, and you figure out what's going to work for you. Nail that food budget. That's the number one excessive thing that Americans waste money on. And gosh, there's been studies that have said the average American throws away about 30% of their food, whether it's from their fridge or from takeout. That's a lot. That's a huge number. And part of that money could be getting you free faster. All right, so here's some other tricks that we did. I want you, hey, if you're not serious about getting out of debt, don't listen any further. But if you are serious, if you're hungry, if you're like, I'm going to do whatever it takes, I am so tired of this debt, it's overwhelming me. I'm ready to put the pedal to the metal. And this is why we got out of debt in 12 months. How many cars do you have? How many do you need? We went down to one car. We shared a vehicle. Might not work for everybody, but we made it work. Sometimes we had to carpool. Sometimes I walked to the grocery store. How bad do you want it? One car is what we had. We never, 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 never went through the drive-through to grab the coffee. We never bought lunches out. We packed them all. We made extra for dinner to pack for lunch. And you know what? This is not about torturing yourself. This is about living temporarily with a focus so that you can live the way that you want. The next thing that we did is we sold a lot of stuff. We sold big ticket items. We had at one time gotten into the gold craze, and it was all marketing. Remember, I told you about marketing? And one thing that marketers like to do, and this you want to write down and you want to highlight, marketers focus on fear. If they can get you to be fearful, they got your money. Oh my gosh, the world is going to end. Oh my gosh, prices are going to skyrocket. You need gold to hedge and gold for emergencies. No, you don't. Do not. And that's a whole other topic that we can talk about. But we got into that craze and the fear. If somebody is trying to sell you something by making you fearful, walk away, because the God that I serve, the God of the Bible, he's not a God of fear. So we had bought a lot of precious metals, and they were sitting there doing nothing. We started buying them just sub 1,000. And then they went up to 12 and then 15 and then down to 12, and they were stagnant for so many years. I'm like, what are we doing with this? It's sitting there doing nothing. We sold it all. We sold furniture. We got that mortgage of 125,000. We got it down to right about $95,000 pretty quickly. And then we put it on a home equity line of credit that we had. It was $100,000. So we got rid of our mortgage and we put it on that because we knew that we were going to pay it off in a year. We were going to do whatever it took. We were going to sacrifice for that short amount of time. And the way mortgages are structured, you always have a specific amount go towards interest and a little towards principal. This allowed us to have more of the money go straight to the principal in a faster way. So that was another thing that we did. So be creative. Sell stuff in your house that's not paying you rent. If it's not useful, if it's just sitting there, get the money and get your freedom. Just get rid of it. This works. Continue to stick into that grocery challenge. See what you really need to survive. Think about your ancestors 100 years ago. Um, they didn't have paper towels. Paper towels were not invented until 1907. What did they use? They weren't buying paper towels, butt wipes, dust wipes to throw away. They weren't buying those things. They had cloth diapers. They had reusable things. What else did they not have? They didn't have all this processed food. They didn't have all this convenience food. They lived simply, and you know what? They were healthier for it. They did not have all the problems of obesity and diabetes and all of these types of things. So during this grocery challenge, think about what you really need to survive and think about how this can bring your family closer together. Maybe instead of going out to dinner or just buying takeout, you make a meal. You try a new recipe. Maybe instead of buying all of the junk food, you make some popcorn. Super easy to make, super cheap. You know, you can put your own toppings on it. Sometimes we put oregano and grated Parmesan cheese, and it's like a little Italian popcorn. Be creative, renew your creativity. So that's it. You can get out of debt in 5 to 7 years or even less. How bad do you want it? You can do it. Continue to stay in the group. Continue to watch out for these challenges that help move you forward. Ask questions. It is possible. It is doable. And if you need a little inspiration, these are two of my favorite books, The Millionaire Next Door. Love it, love it, love it. And True Wealth Formula. This book and Danny Johnson's First Step to Wealth helped us get out of debt, $92,000 of debt in 12 months. And then this book helped us become millionaires. These are the two books. You can do it. Many people have done it before. I'm here for you, and we will see you next time.